we need to strengthen the scientist's theory. What is the scientist's theory? Scientists have hypothesized that sharply rising salinity must be involved in signaling the indigenous types of slugs to begin the growing cycle. And their evidence for this is that after this Dead Sea barrier was put in, there are no slugs on one side of the barrier, the side that has the reduced range of salinity from 30% to 6%, where on the other side it still have the 8 sea slug types. So to strengthen that theory, we need to say that that's definitely a cause, or that there are no other causes for why the slugs are on the saline side of the wall. Actually, I think when I just read that one, I gave away the answer in part. We have the barrier reduced on the one side from 30% to 6%. Choice A actually has the sea slug types only on one side, where the yearly salinity remained 30%. So we don't actually find out in the passage about the other side of the barrier until choice A. Wow, I must have remembered this one from seeing it before. Anyway, in terms of approach to this one, in order to strengthen the theory, we need additional evidence that salinity matters. Sharply rising salinity must be involved for the slugs. So choice A tells us that the range of salinity is still 30%, so that's a wider range in values, so it can sharply rise. Let's look at the other choices, though, and see how we would have eliminated them. B, before the barrier was constructed, the Dead Sea overflowed its shores yearly, creating salt licks that became key feeding spots for the indigenous type of sea slug. So the creation of salt licks on the shores doesn't necessarily say anything about how the rise in salinity would relate to the growing cycle. It just says that this is where they would go feed. That's not it. C, before the barrier was built, the lowest recorded salinity of the Dead Sea was 16%, whereas after the barrier was built, the lowest recorded salinity of the sea has been 25%. So the recorded salinity is not the same thing as the range of the salinity. So even though the difference has not been, even though there's not that much difference between the two, the passage itself says that the range in the salinity has gone from 30 to 6%. So again, we don't have the sharply increasing salinity that is required for the sea slugs. D, non-indigenous types of sea slug introduced into the Dead Sea after the barrier's construction started competing with the declining indigenous sea slug types for salt. This would weaken the scientist's claim, saying that it wasn't salinity but competition from other types of slugs that caused the problems. Choice E, of the sea slug types indigenous to the Dead Sea, 6 are not indigenous to any other sea in the Middle East. Now, where they are indigenous, to what areas they are indigenous has no bearing. All we care about is that is salinity, salt, in the water, is the salt in the water the thing that affects the slug's growth cycle? Choice A says yes, because on the side where they still have salt or a wide range in salinity, they're still growing.